Family in Christ, before we go into today's testimony, I want to speak to every single person connecting with us right now from different parts of the world. Our team did not rush to publish this story. We understood the weight of the responsibility placed before us because the experience, the deep emotions, and the revelations contained in this testimony are not ordinary. This testimony can shake a person's heart, challenge long-held beliefs, and make someone sit quietly for a long time after listening. So before you continue, we ask you sincerely to prepare your heart properly. Do not listen casually. Do not listen with pride, mockery, or distraction. Listen prayerfully and attentively because what you are about to hear involves pain, sacrifice, hidden struggles, dangerous secrets, and a journey that changed multiple lives forever. Some moments in this testimony may deeply touch you emotionally. Some parts may even make you reflect on your own walk with God and the condition of your heart. And as you listen, we want you to do something special for us in the comment section. Share the exact time you are connecting according to your time zone and tell us your location or country. Every night our team gathers to pray, and we intentionally lift up those names, locations, and nations before God. We may not know you personally, but we believe God knows every listener He is drawing to these testimonies for a reason. Tonight's story is not just about religion. It is about truth, fear, sacrifice, hidden questions, and the dangerous journey of 4 women whose lives changed in an unexpected manner. Please stay with us until the very end because the final moments of this testimony carry lessons every believer needs to hear. Now here is the testimony. My name is Hafsat Al-Karim. And for many years people in our city in Amman, Jordan, respected me as one of the 4 wives of Imam Yusuf Al-Karim. Everywhere we went, women lowered their voices around us. Mothers brought their daughters to us for advice. Young wives sat on carpets inside the mosque hall and wrote down every word we said about marriage, obedience, prayer, modesty, and raising children in the Islamic way. Many people believed our home was one of the most peaceful religious homes in the city, but nobody knew the hidden fears that sometimes lived behind our smiles. My husband was known as a strong Islamic teacher. Every Friday, men filled the mosque to hear him preach. After the prayers ended, women gathered around us, his wives, because we had different duties inside the mosque and inside the house. I was the oldest wife, so I handled counseling for troubled women and taught lessons about family honor. Miriam, the second wife, taught young girls how to read Arabic and memorize religious writings. Zainab organized food for widows and poor families every week. The youngest wife, Salma, cared for women who were sick or pregnant and visited homes when someone lost a family member. People admired how we shared responsibilities without public fighting. We even had special days arranged for our husband. Every wife had her own evenings with him, and every week had a clear order so there would be peace in the house. Many women used to whisper that they wished their own homes were as organized as ours. Imam Yusuf himself often smiled proudly and told visitors that unity among wives was possible if women feared God and respected authority. Outwardly, our home looked perfect. But sometimes at night, after everyone slept, I sat beside the small window in my room and listened to the wind moving through the narrow streets outside. I cannot fully explain it, but there were moments when I felt an emptiness deep inside me. I pushed those feelings away quickly because I feared such thoughts. I feared questioning too much. In our world, too many questions could destroy a person's life. One Thursday evening, the mosque was full of women from different neighborhoods. Some came with babies on their backs. Some came crying about marriage problems. Others wanted advice about stubborn children. I taught them for nearly 2 hours about discipline, prayer, and protecting the honor of their families. The room was hot and the smell of tea and dust filled the air. By the time the lesson ended, my throat hurt from speaking. One by one, the women greeted me and left the mosque courtyard. The sound of sandals faded into the dark street outside until only one woman remained standing near the doorway. She looked nervous. Her hands were shaking badly. Beside her stood a teenage girl with her head lowered. The girl held something wrapped tightly inside a cloth against her chest, as if she was hiding a dangerous weapon. I still remember the fear in the mother's eyes. She looked around carefully to make sure nobody else was listening before stepping closer to me. Then in a low, trembling voice, she told me there was a fire trying to burn down her house from inside. At first, I thought she meant a real fire, but what she said next made my heart stop completely. The woman moved closer to me until I could smell the smoke from the cooking fire on her clothes. Her daughter stood silently beside her, trembling so badly that the cloth in her hands shook with her. The mosque hall was almost empty now. Only a weak yellow light remained near the back wall, and outside I could hear chairs scraping as workers locked the front gate for the night. The woman leaned toward me and whispered that she had entered her daughter's room earlier that afternoon and found her reading a Bible. The moment she said that word, my chest tightened. In our community, that was not a small matter. People could forgive many sins quietly, but secretly reading the Bible was something that could destroy a family's reputation overnight. The mother's voice became broken as she explained that her daughter had hidden the book under her mattress for many weeks. She said the girl had stopped arguing at home, stopped insulting her younger brothers, and even began showing unusual kindness to neighbors. But instead of feeling peace, the mother became afraid. She believed something had entered her daughter's mind. The girl finally lifted her face slightly, and I noticed tears resting in her eyes. She looked frightened, but there was also something else there, something calm, something stubborn. I asked her where she got the Bible, but she remained silent. Her mother answered quickly before she could speak, saying the girl probably collected it secretly from Christians in the market area near downtown Amman. Then she begged me to help remove what she called the dangerous influence before the news spread to the imam or other leaders. I looked around carefully before telling them to follow me back inside the mosque room. My footsteps echoed against the tiled floor as I locked the inner door behind us. The girl sat quietly on the carpet while her mother kept pacing nervously. Finally, the girl slowly unwrapped the cloth in her hands, and for the first time in my life I saw a Bible up close. I had expected something strange or frightening. Instead, it looked simple, old, worn at the corners. The pages were filled with Arabic writing. Some sections were underlined with blue ink as if somebody had been studying it deeply. For reasons I could not explain, I suddenly felt uncomfortable touching it. My mind remembered many warnings I had heard growing up. We were taught that Christians had corrupted their holy book. We were taught that reading it could confuse the heart and lead people away from truth. Still, I forced myself to remain firm. I sat down in front of the girl and spoke strongly to her. I told her she was bringing shame upon her family and danger upon herself. I warned her that if the wrong people discovered what she was doing, her life could become very difficult. I told her she must stop immediately before matters grew beyond control. The girl listened quietly without interrupting me once, but what disturbed me most was that she did not look guilty. She looked sad for me. That look stayed in my mind. I then turned to the mother and warned her never to discuss this matter openly with anyone. I explained that rumors spread fast in religious communities and could bring punishment upon the entire family. The woman quickly agreed. She looked relieved that I had not called other leaders into the matter. Then I did something I still cannot fully explain even now. I told them I would keep the Bible myself. The mother immediately agreed, almost gratefully, as if I had removed poison from her home. But the daughter's eyes suddenly widened with fear when I picked it up. For the first time, she spoke softly. She pleaded with me not to destroy it. Her voice cracked while speaking, and there was real pain in it. That moment troubled me deeply. Why would a young Muslim girl defend that book with such emotion? I refused to answer her. I wrapped the Bible back inside the cloth and held it tightly under my arm. Then I dismissed them both into the night. I watched from the mosque doorway as they disappeared down the narrow street beneath the orange city lights. When I finally began walking home through the cold evening air of Amman, I could feel the weight of that Bible under my arm the entire way. And strangely, it felt heavier than any book I had ever carried in my life. By the time I reached our home, the city was quiet. The streets outside were almost empty, except for a few shopkeepers pulling down their metal doors for the night. I entered carefully through the side gate so nobody would ask questions about the cloth bundle I carried. Inside the house, the smell of rice and lamb still floated through the air from dinner. One lantern burned softly near the hallway, casting long shadows across the walls. The other wives were awake. Miriam sat on the floor folding clothes while Salma cleaned cups from the evening tea. Zainab was near the window sewing part of a dress for one of the neighborhood widows. The moment they saw my face, they knew something was wrong. We had lived together many years. We understood each other's silence better than most people understand spoken words. I closed the door behind me and lowered my voice almost to a whisper. I told them a woman had brought her daughter to me after finding something dangerous in the girl's room. Naturally, they expected me to mention drugs, forbidden letters, or secret meetings with boys. But when I slowly unwrapped the cloth and revealed the Bible, the entire room became silent. Salma immediately covered her mouth. Zainab stared at the book as if it might explode. Miriam quickly moved toward the hallway to make sure none of the servants were listening. For several moments nobody spoke. Then all at once the questions began. Where did it come from? Did the imam know? What did the girl say? Why did I bring it home instead of destroying it? I answered carefully, but even while speaking to them, my eyes kept returning to the Bible resting on the small table between us. Finally, Miriam asked quietly if I planned to burn it. I should have said yes immediately, but instead I hesitated. That hesitation frightened me more than the Bible itself. I told them I only wanted to inspect it first before deciding what to do. Zainab warned me not to delay because dangerous things often begin with curiosity. Salma agreed nervously and said we should get rid of it before sunrise, but Miriam said nothing. She simply kept staring at the book with a strange expression I could not understand. Later that night everyone went to their rooms, but sleep refused to come to me. I lay awake listening to the distant barking of dogs outside and the faint hum of traffic far beyond our neighborhood. Again and again my mind returned to the young girl's face when she begged me not to destroy the Bible. There had been no hatred in her eyes, no rebellion, only sadness. Near midnight I finally rose from my bed. The house was silent. I lit a small lamp and carefully removed the Bible from where I had hidden it inside a wooden chest beneath my clothes. My hands actually trembled as I opened it for the first time. I remember whispering to myself that I only wanted to see why people risked so much for this book. The pages opened somewhere near the middle. My eyes fell upon words that immediately made my heart pound so hard I could hear it. The verse spoke about no one coming to God except through Jesus. I froze. I read the line again and again. My breathing became heavy. Inside my mind, questions began crashing against each other. We had always honored Isa, whom Christians called Jesus, as a prophet. But this verse spoke about him differently. It spoke with authority that disturbed me deeply. I tried to close the book, yet something inside me kept forcing my eyes back to the page. For the first time in many years, fear entered my heart while reading about God, not fear of punishment, fear that I might not know the truth as completely as I thought. I remember sitting there on the floor beside my bed while cold air slipped through the window curtains. My thoughts became louder with every minute. Why would millions of Christians believe this so strongly? Why did that young girl defend this book with tears? Why did these words feel alive inside me? I did not notice how long I sat there until suddenly there was movement near my doorway. It was Miriam. She had woken to drink water and noticed the light in my room. When she saw the Bible open in my lap, she stopped breathing for a moment. I expected her to rebuke me. Instead, she slowly entered the room and asked me what I had read. I pointed silently to the verse. She bent down beside me and read it carefully under the dim lamp. The expression on her face changed slowly, almost the same way mine had changed moments earlier. Then she whispered something that made chills move through my body. She said those words did not sound weak or corrupted. They sounded certain. Miriam remained beside me on the floor long after midnight while the lamp burned low and the city outside became completely silent. Neither of us spoke for several minutes after reading that verse. The room suddenly felt smaller, as if the walls themselves were listening to us. I remember hearing the ticking of the small clock near my bed and the faint sound of wind pressing against the shutters outside. My heart would not calm down. Every teaching I had known since childhood seemed to rise inside my mind at once, yet those few words from the Bible kept standing stronger than all my arguments. Miriam finally sat down beside me fully and asked to see more pages. I hesitated for a long moment before handing her the book. Watching another imam's wife hold a Bible inside our home felt unreal. Dangerous, almost impossible. Yet there we were, two respected Muslim women sitting in the middle of the night reading forbidden pages, while everyone around us slept peacefully believing we were defenders of Islam. Miriam turned the pages slowly and carefully as though she expected hidden fire to leap from the paper, but instead of fear growing on her face, I noticed something else beginning to appear. Curiosity, deep curiosity. She stopped several times to reread certain passages silently. At one point she whispered that the words sounded strangely full of mercy. That disturbed me because I was already thinking the same thing myself, but had been too afraid to admit it aloud. Before dawn, we hid the Bible again. But after that night, something changed between the four of us forever. The next morning during breakfast, I could barely look at the other wives normally. Every time my eyes met Miriam's eyes, it felt as if we were carrying a dangerous secret together. Later that afternoon, when Salma and Zainab were alone arranging food supplies for poor families, Miriam quietly told them we had opened the Bible instead of burning it. At first, both women became upset. Salma whispered harshly that we were risking the entire household. Zainab warned that even possessing such a book could bring serious consequences if discovered by the wrong people, but curiosity is a strange thing. Once it enters the heart, fear alone cannot remove it easily. That evening, after the imam traveled briefly to visit another mosque outside the city, all four of us gathered secretly in Miriam's room. I still remember how carefully we locked the door and lowered the curtains before bringing out the Bible again. Our hands moved nervously the entire time. We kept pausing whenever footsteps sounded outside the hallway. One by one, we began reading sections aloud quietly. At first, we only intended to examine the book so we could understand how Christians thought. At least that was the excuse we gave ourselves. But as the nights passed, something deeper slowly began happening inside each of us. The words affected us differently than we expected. Instead of sounding hateful or violent, many passages spoke about forgiveness, peace, mercy, love for enemies, purity of heart, and closeness to God in ways we had never personally experienced before. Soon our secret grew even deeper. Unknown to one another in the beginning, each of us started searching privately online whenever we found opportunities. Sometimes late at night after everyone slept, I would hide beneath my blanket with my phone dimmed low and search questions about Issa, whom Christians call Jesus. I searched carefully, deleting history afterward with trembling hands. Other nights Miriam secretly listened to testimonies from former Muslims who claimed they encountered Jesus in dreams. Salma searched explanations about salvation. Zainab studied comparisons between the Quran and Bible passages, but none of us admitted openly how far our curiosity had gone. We still taught women publicly inside the mosque every week. We still stood beside our husband respectfully during gatherings. We still corrected younger women about modesty and religious discipline. Yet behind those familiar routines, another battle had quietly started inside us. Some nights I found myself praying in confusion, asking God silently to guide me if I was being deceived. Other nights I feared even asking such prayers because I worried heaven itself might judge me for doubting. Then one evening something happened that pushed everything much further. It was Miriam. She entered my room looking pale and shaken after everyone had gone to sleep. In her hand was the Bible, open to a verse she had been reading repeatedly. Her fingers trembled while she pointed to the words. The verse spoke about calling upon God and receiving an answer. She told me she had read it many times that day and could not stop thinking about it. Then, with tears already forming in her eyes, she confessed something that made my stomach tighten. She said earlier that evening while alone, she whispered the name Jesus 3 times softly into the darkness of her room. She said she asked with all her heart that if the Bible truly carried truth, then she wanted to know. Nothing happened immediately, no voice, no vision, no sign. And for a while she felt foolish and afraid for even trying. But the way she looked at me that night told me something inside her had already begun changing. And I could feel that something even bigger was still coming toward us. The night Miriam told me she had called the name of Jesus, I could not sleep at all. Her confession stayed in my mind like thunder, trapped inside a closed room. Even after she left my room quietly and returned to hers, I remained awake staring at the ceiling while darkness covered the house. Every small sound made me nervous. The creaking wood near the hallway, the movement of curtains in the wind, even the distant barking of stray dogs somewhere beyond our street sounded louder than usual. Part of me was angry with Miriam for going that far. Another part of me secretly wanted to know what would happen next. The following morning she looked unusually quiet during breakfast. Imam Yusuf noticed it immediately and asked if she was sick. Miriam lowered her eyes respectfully and claimed she had only slept badly. He accepted the answer and continued speaking proudly about an upcoming gathering where important religious leaders from another city would visit our mosque. While he spoke confidently, none of us wives could even focus on the conversation properly. Every time Miriam lifted her face, I noticed fear and confusion mixed together in her eyes. That entire day she barely spoke. By evening rain began falling softly over Amman, and cold wind pressed against the windows of the house. The imam retired early to rest because he planned to travel before dawn. Once the house became silent, Miriam suddenly entered my room again, but this time she was shaking badly. I immediately rose from my chair thinking something terrible had happened. Then I saw tears running down her face. Real fear entered my chest. She sat beside me struggling to breathe steadily, before finally telling me that during the night she had seen a dream unlike anything she had ever experienced before. At first she said she found herself standing alone in a wide place filled with light, though she could not explain where it was. The air felt peaceful but powerful at the same time. She said there was no fear there, yet her heart trembled because she felt exposed, as if every hidden thought inside her life could be seen clearly. Then she saw a man approaching from the brightness. She told me she somehow knew immediately who he was without anyone introducing him. Her voice became lower as she described him. She said his presence carried peace unlike anything she had ever felt before in her life. Not the peace of silence, not the peace of sleep, something deeper. She said it felt like standing before someone who fully knew her pain, her secrets, her fears, and yet did not hate her. At that moment, chills covered my entire body listening to her. Miriam explained that in the dream she suddenly remembered all the questions she had secretly carried for years but never dared ask openly. Questions many Muslim women bury deep inside themselves because they fear judgment. She said the moment those questions formed in her heart, he began revealing answers to her with clarity that felt impossible to describe. The first question in her heart was why she always felt distant from God, no matter how much she prayed and obeyed religious duties. She told me he revealed to her that God desired relationship and not empty performance alone. The second question was why fear controlled so much of religious life around us. He let her know that truth does not grow through fear, but through love and light. The third question she carried was whether God truly forgives sins completely, or if people must spend their whole lives trying to earn peace. She said he revealed to her that mercy had already been prepared by God long before humans even understood their need for it. The fourth question was why she constantly felt empty after years of religious service despite people praising her publicly. She said he let her know that public honor cannot heal a starving soul. Then came the fifth question, the question that broke her completely. She asked silently in her heart which path truly leads to God. When she told me this part, her voice cracked badly and tears rolled down her cheeks again. She explained that he revealed to her that he himself was the way that leads people to God. Not merely a prophet pointing forward, not only a teacher, but the bridge itself. After hearing this, I could barely breathe properly. I remember gripping the edge of my chair tightly while staring at Miriam in disbelief. Everything she described sounded impossible, yet the emotion in her face looked too real to dismiss easily. She was not behaving like someone inventing stories. She looked like a person whose entire world had been shaken. Then she told me something even more disturbing. She said when she woke up from the dream, peace remained in her room so strongly that she started crying immediately. Not from terror, from relief. Before I could even answer her, we suddenly heard soft footsteps outside the hallway. Both of us froze instantly. The door slowly opened. And standing there in the dim light was Zainab, but the expression on her face told me she had come carrying a secret of her own. The moment Zainab stepped into my room that night, the air changed completely. Rain continued beating softly against the windows outside, while the weak lantern light trembled across the walls. Miriam quickly wiped her tears, but it was already too late. Zainab had seen everything. For several seconds, none of us spoke. We only stared at one another while fear slowly rose inside the room like smoke. Then Zainab quietly shut the door behind her. What frightened me most was not her silence. It was the expression on her face. She did not look shocked to find us speaking secretly in the middle of the night. Instead, she looked like someone carrying a heavy burden she could no longer keep hidden alone. Her breathing was uneven as she slowly approached us. I expected her to rebuke us for reading the Bible again or speaking about dreams and visions. Instead, she sat down beside Miriam and whispered words that sent chills through my entire body. She said she had also seen him. For a moment, my mind refused to understand what she meant. but the tears gathering in Zainab's eyes already told me before she finished speaking. She explained that for many nights after secretly reading the Bible, strange questions began growing inside her heart. During prayers at the mosque, she found herself distracted. During religious lessons, she no longer felt the same certainty she once felt before. Sometimes while teaching other women, she suddenly remembered words she had read in the Bible about mercy, forgiveness, peace, and love for enemies. Those words would follow her even after returning home. Then 2 nights earlier she experienced something she could not explain. She said she woke suddenly before dawn feeling as if someone was standing near her bed. At first she became terrified, unable to move properly. The room itself remained dark and silent, yet she felt an unusual peace surrounding her at the same time. She explained that no voice spoke loudly to her, but deep inside her heart answers began filling questions she had secretly carried for years without speaking them aloud to anybody. The part that terrified me most was this. Some of those questions were exactly the same questions Miriam had described earlier that night. Zainab said she always wondered why so many people around us feared questioning religious leaders, even when their hearts carried confusion. She wondered why people could spend their entire lives performing religious duties, yet still feel empty inside. She wondered why hatred toward Christians was taught so strongly in some gatherings, despite many Christians she personally met showing kindness and humility. Then with trembling hands she confessed something else. She said when she sensed that holy presence near her bed, she felt completely known, every hidden fear, every secret pain. Every silent cry she buried behind years of religious discipline, yet instead of condemnation, she felt compassion. While speaking, tears rolled slowly down her cheeks. She explained that the figure revealed things to her heart she had never spoken aloud before, even to us. He revealed wounds she carried from childhood. He revealed her hidden fear of never being good enough before God despite years of sacrifice and obedience. He revealed her exhaustion from constantly trying to appear spiritually strong while secretly feeling spiritually dry inside. I sat there unable to speak. The rain outside became heavier. The room suddenly felt smaller than ever before. Miriam then told Zainab everything about her own dream and the 5 questions that had been answered. As they spoke together, I realized both women described the same presence, the same peace, the same overwhelming feeling of truth and mercy. Neither of them sounded confused anymore. They sounded shaken but deeply convinced. Then their attention turned toward me. I felt trapped. Part of me wanted to reject everything immediately and end the conversation forever. Another part of me could no longer ignore what was happening. Deep inside, I already knew something had begun changing in all of us from the moment that Bible entered our house. That night the 3 of us remained awake until nearly dawn, speaking in whispers. We discussed verses we had secretly read online. We talked about testimonies from former Muslims who claimed Jesus appeared to them in dreams. We asked difficult questions we would never dare ask publicly inside the mosque. Every few minutes we paused nervously whenever floorboards creaked outside or when wind struck the doors. Then suddenly Salma entered the room unexpectedly. The moment she saw our faces, she immediately knew something serious was happening. At first she became frightened seeing all 3 of us awake together at such an hour. But after much hesitation, Miriam finally told her everything. The Bible, the secret studies, the dreams, the questions, the strange peace none of us could explain anymore. Salma listened silently for a very long time. Then she slowly sat down beside us and began crying quietly, not because she thought we were deceived, but because she admitted she too had already started praying secretly to Jesus for several days. At that moment, fear moved through me more strongly than ever before because I realized something impossible was happening inside our home. Without planning it together, without forcing one another, all 4 wives of a respected imam had separately begun searching for the same truth in secret. And none of us knew where this dangerous path would finally lead us. After that night, everything inside our home changed quietly. Outwardly, we still looked like the same respected wives of Imam Yusuf al-Karim. We attended gatherings, taught women inside the mosque, visited homes, and smiled before people as if nothing had happened. But inside us, another life had already started growing. Secretly, the 4 of us now prayed differently. We began asking Jesus to guide us and reveal truth to us more clearly. The more we read the Bible, the more peace entered our hearts, yet fear also increased because we knew discovery could destroy everything. As weeks passed, we slowly stopped speaking harshly about Christians during women's lessons. Instead, we encouraged women to live peacefully with others and stop treating Christians like enemies. Sometimes I told the women that kindness opens hearts more than hatred. Miriam began teaching younger wives that people should not fear speaking kindly to Christians in markets, schools, or neighborhoods. Zainab even defended a Christian widow once when women insulted her publicly. At first people only looked surprised, but soon whispers began moving through the community. Women started talking quietly after lessons ended. Some said the imam's wives were becoming too soft toward Christians. Others claimed foreign teachings were entering our mosque. A few warned that our behavior could confuse younger women. Though nobody accused us openly yet, I could feel suspicion growing each week like smoke spreading through hidden cracks. One evening my husband entered my room later than usual. His face looked calm, but I immediately sensed danger. He sat down slowly and asked me if it was true that a woman once brought her daughter and a Bible to me at the mosque. My heart nearly stopped. Still, I forced myself to remain calm and admitted that yes, it had happened weeks earlier. Then he asked the question I feared most, "Where is the Bible?" For a moment panic swallowed me completely. I quickly lied and told him I burned it the same day because I did not want trouble to enter our home. He stared at me silently for several seconds without blinking. Then he called the other wives one by one and asked if they knew anything about the Bible. Before any of them could speak, I interrupted and insisted none of them knew about it. I explained that just as I hid it from him to avoid worry, I also hid it from them. The room became painfully quiet. Then suddenly my husband stood up, walked toward a wooden cabinet near the wall, and opened it slowly. What he removed from inside made my blood run cold. It was the Bible. My entire body froze instantly. He looked directly into my eyes while holding it in his hands, and in that moment I realized he had already known I was lying before he even entered the room. Then, without raising his voice, he placed a divorce letter before me and told me to leave his house honorably before sunrise. He warned me not to create noise or attract attention because the punishment for bringing shame upon him could become far worse than divorce. That night felt longer than any night of my life. After my husband placed the divorce letter before me, the room felt like it was spinning around me. I could hear my own heartbeat loudly inside my ears, while the Bible remained in his hand between us like evidence from a crime scene. For many years I had watched other women fall into disgrace and lose their homes, but I never imagined such a thing could happen to me. Not me, Hafsat al-Karim, one of the respected wives of a powerful imam in Amman. Yet in that moment I understood how quickly honor can disappear. Imam Yusuf did not shout. That frightened me more. His voice remained calm and controlled as he warned me that if this matter spread beyond the house, many dangerous men would become involved. He told me I still had one chance to leave quietly before sunrise and protect myself from worse consequences. Then he looked at the other wives with suspicion so deep it made my stomach tighten. I feared one wrong expression from them could expose all of us immediately, but none of them spoke. Salma lowered her face and cried silently. Miriam looked frozen with fear. Zainab held her own hands tightly to stop them from shaking. The silence in that room was heavier than screaming. My husband finally ordered everyone to return to their rooms. Before leaving, he looked at me one final time and warned me again not to force him to sound an alarm. The way he said those words filled me with terror because I knew exactly what he meant. In our community, accusations connected to leaving Islam could destroy a person completely. The moment he left, the other wives rushed toward me. We embraced each other and cried quietly like women standing beside a grave. I remember Miriam whispering that we should all run away together that same night, but fear controlled us. None of us knew who to trust, none of us knew where to go safely. Outside the house, darkness covered the streets of Amman while cold wind moved through the trees beyond the walls. Before dawn, I packed only a small bag with clothes and a few personal things. My hands trembled so badly that several items fell to the floor while packing. Then Miriam secretly brought me some hidden money she had saved over time. Zainab wrapped bread and food for my journey. Salma could barely stop crying long enough to speak. The hardest moment came when I hugged them goodbye. We all knew this might be the last time we would stand together inside that house. As the first call to prayer echoed faintly across the city before sunrise, I stepped outside the gate alone. I did not look back immediately because I feared my courage would break if I did. The streets were still mostly empty, covered in pale early morning light. I walked quickly with my small bag held tightly against my chest, feeling like every passing shadow might recognize me. That morning I lost my marriage, I lost my home, I lost my respected position, but deep inside me something else remained alive. The peace I found while searching for Jesus had not left me. Even in fear, I still felt it quietly holding my heart together while everything around me collapsed. It has been 2 years since I walked away from that house before sunrise, with only one small bag in my hand. Today I live quietly in another city far from Amman, where very few people know my full story. The first months after leaving were extremely painful. I moved from place to place, afraid someone connected to my former life might recognize me. Some nights I slept with fear so heavy in my chest that I could barely rest. Every knock on the door made me nervous. Every unknown face in the market made me wonder if word about me had spread. But slowly, God surrounded me with believers who showed me kindness I never expected. The first small church gathering I attended felt strange to me at the beginning. I remember sitting quietly at the back, covering my face slightly, watching how the believers prayed together peacefully. Nobody forced me, nobody threatened me. Nobody demanded perfection from me before showing love. Some of them had also come from Muslim backgrounds, so they understood the fear and loneliness I carried. For the first time in many years, I felt like I could breathe without pretending to be strong all the time. Even now, I still think often about Miriam, Zainab, and Salma. We speak only rarely and very carefully because danger still exists for them. Sometimes weeks pass without any message at all. But whenever I hear from them secretly, I thank God because I know they are still searching deeply and praying quietly. I continue asking God to protect them and guide them safely. There are nights I cry while praying for them because I understand the fear they still live under inside that house. Sometimes while walking through crowded streets in this new city, I look around at people and remember something I never understood clearly before all this happened. Many Muslims are raised with deep separation from non-Muslims, especially Christians. Not every family is the same, but in many places people are taught from childhood to avoid close relationships outside their faith. Fear grows easily where people never truly know one another. But after my own journey, I discovered that many Christians we were warned about were not enemies at all. Some of the kindest people who helped me survive after leaving my old life were followers of Jesus. That realization changed me deeply. Today I no longer teach women to hate or fear others. Instead, I encourage peace, understanding, kindness, and truth. I have learned that forcing religion through fear only hides people's questions. It does not heal their hearts. Real faith grows where truth, love, and mercy are allowed to speak freely. And sometimes late at night, when I remember that young girl whose Bible first entered my hands, I still wonder where she is today, because without knowing it, she changed my life forever. As I look back now on everything that happened, I still sometimes struggle to believe my own journey. If someone had told me years ago that I, Hafsat al-Karim, one of the respected wives of a famous imam in Jordan, would one day worship among believers in Jesus, I would have rejected such words immediately. Back then I thought I understood truth completely. I thought religious titles, respect from people, and years of service automatically meant a person was close to God. But I later discovered that a person can appear strong outwardly while secretly feeling empty inside. My journey taught me that God sees beyond public appearances. He sees hidden fears, hidden questions, hidden pain, and even silent prayers nobody else hears. There were many nights when fear almost pushed me back into silence. There were moments I nearly abandoned my search because the cost became too painful. I lost my marriage, my home, my reputation, and the life I once knew. But through all those dark moments, the peace I found in Jesus continued drawing me forward step by step. To every believer listening to my story, I want to encourage you never to take your walk with God lightly. Pray sincerely. Study God's word deeply for yourself. Do not depend only on what others tell you about God while your own heart remains empty. There are many people sitting inside religious gatherings every week carrying hidden wounds and secret questions. Love them, pray for them, be patient with them. Sometimes one act of kindness can open a heart more than years of arguments. And please, never allow hatred to control your heart toward people from other backgrounds or religions. Many people are trapped in fear, tradition, confusion, or pressure from family and society. Some are searching quietly the same way I once searched quietly in the darkness of my room while holding a Bible I was never supposed to touch. Only God truly knows what is happening inside a human heart. Even now, 2 years later, I still pray often for my former husband and for the women still inside that community. I ask God to reveal truth, mercy, and peace to them the same way He slowly revealed it to me. Sometimes the journey to truth begins with only one small question, one unexpected moment, or one forbidden book placed into trembling hands. And sometimes a single verse can change an entire life forever.